Hi there. Filming on House of the Dragon Season 3 just started, and in a recent interview about it, showrunner Ryan Condal made a passing remark about where we are now in the narrative arc of the series as a whole, leading to the end point. That he said, we're not in the end game now so much as we are in the midpoint in Season 3. And, well, it's not so much what he said as the way he said it, and the exact phrasing he used was confusing. But I'm wondering how this relates to the significant episode cuts that HBO forced on them, and how this might have changed plans, that they were supposed to have 4 seasons, 10 episodes each, and now the last 3 have been cut down to 8-episode seasons. How did Condal reshuffle what the endpoint is? Because this show could have a direct sequel. They could just push things off into that, or did they condense things? What exactly did he mean by that? And on top of this, quite separately, but in terms of thinking of the future, there have been some rumblings about, well, when can we finally expect the first real teaser trailer for Dunk and Egg, for A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms Season 1, which should be coming this fall. They said it was coming in fall. So I tacked that on to the end of this. Well, to dive right into it, this is from the big interview Ryan Condal gave with Entertainment Weekly 3 weeks ago when Season 3 started filming. And I've covered other bigger things he said in the interview in other videos. This is the absolute last morsel of info from that interview that I can try to wring some meaning out of, but it's just been stuck in the back of my head. This is totally speculative. I just wanted to share with you guys, this is kind of an open question. What did he mean by that? Full quote. This is certainly our biggest season to date, both in terms of ambition and just the practical size, the amount of sets. We're cresting the narrative parabola here and starting to come down into, if not the endgame, the midpoint, and getting into the late Act 2 and moving on to the start of Act 3. Anybody that's read that book knows that the narrative gets bigger and grimmer as it goes along. The show has to match that ambition as best it possibly can. So we're coming down into, if not the end game, that we are cresting, present tense, present participle. Season 3, we're cresting the narrative arc of the midpoint. That if not the end game, the midpoint, getting into late Act 2, moving into start of Act 3. What did he mean by that? Raises a lot of questions, and at first I was optimistic because I still am a little, just because you don't know, I thought he meant Season 3 as a whole is reaching the start of the end game by the end of it, of what we're trying to do. But I realized, on the other hand, he might be talking about the beginning of Season 3 is late Act 2, which completely makes sense, because it starts with what should have been the final 2 episodes of Season 2, and maybe he's referring to the rest of it as Act 3. Then again, the way this is structured, well, okay, Season 1 was clearly Act 1, and it had a lot of time skips, it covered a lot of story. Was Act 2 just this not that much really happens, just introducing the dragon seeds, the early phases? I always, when I read the book myself, I always felt Act 2 was everything to a later point. People might differ on this, but just to see it as, oh, this is Act 3, well, then there's a lot of dangling plot threads after what happens. I'm going to give him full spoilers on this, by the way, of what is he saying here, and just open question, just to share with you guys. If not the end game, the midpoint, cresting the middle of the story. Well, Season 1 was Act 1, but it was 10 full episodes and covered a lot of stuff. How are you going to cover all of Act 3 in Season 4? I don't know what they're trying to do here. My point is, just to skip to it, I think that when they originally planned these as 10-episode seasons, and we know this, I mean, I just made a whole video about it, it's amazing you still see people defiantly going in comment sections, the writers are insane, Sarah Hess is insane, she chose to end this with episode 8, and it doesn't even feel like a season finale. When, if anything, we're pointing out the fact that it doesn't feel like a season finale is because it was never meant to be one. That is objectively not something those writers had control over. And even just last week, director Alan Taylor said, oh yes, originally season 2 was supposed to be 10 episodes, late enough in production that I was assigned to do Battle of the Gullet episode 9. And then at the last minute, the studio slashed our episode count. We had no way to rewrite it in time. Like, this was intended to... So, apparently, if Gullet was episode 9, it stands to unless they had, like, an aftermath episode, The Fall of King's Landing was probably meant to be the original season 2 finale, right? In the original 10-episode season 3, what was the end point? Because now we're pretty sure that the end point of the 8-episode season 3 is going to be the Battle of Tumbleton, which is a decent ending point. It's a big cliffhanger. I suspect that the original 10-episode season 3 was supposed to end with the storming of the Dragon Pit as a big cliffhanger. When exactly would season 4 end? How much of it would include the Hour of the Wolf? I'm not really sure, and I made other videos talking about. I think because they considered... they've said we could just keep calling it House of the Dragon and have the show continue under new writers. And by that they meant continue into the Aftermath era, where there's like a couple of 8 or so chapters you could adapt. There's actual source material to cover everything that happens in the Regent Wars and everything. You could do that. And then I said, well, maybe, full spoilers, maybe Condal wants to end where The Princess and the Queen did. The novella, where after Daemon and Rhaenyra die, he intends to leave, even though technically Aegon II is still alive. The war is still ongoing because Rhaenyra's followers keep supporting her children. And, like, the big Battle of the King's Road hasn't even happened yet, that there's other events in the war that have not occurred. Not a lot, but like enough for another full season. So I would always say, oh, there's like 5 seasons of material if season 5 is the Hour of the Wolf, and then I said, well, maybe Condal never intended to stay for the Hour of the Wolf, because he sees that as season 1 of a Regency show. Fair enough. This is what Benioff and Weiss didn't do. They didn't leave and pass the baton off to someone else. So it's not even necessarily a bad thing if we're worried about them crunching this. That if they choose to end a little earlier and hand it off to someone else as a sequel show, I'd actually be in favor of that. But I suspect the original ending was supposed to be Storming of the Dragon Pit, and that they moved it back to Battle of Tumbleton, and this was a good thing. Because think about what our options were. Our nightmare scenario is that they were trying to meet an arbitrary stopping point, that what they consider the act break between seasons 3 and 4 was set in stone. That no, it has to be Storming of the Dragon Pit. Well, if a 10-episode season 3 was reduced to 8 episodes, and then the first 2 of those episodes are actually used up on spillover from season 2, because again, the first 2 episodes of season 3 are really the last of season 2, you're talking fitting what was originally meant to be a 10-episode story into 6 episodes. 10 into 6. That's impossible. 10 into 8 episodes with enough time to plan it in advance could end up just being a really fast-paced but decent season. Depending on, well, oh, it's too slow in season 2. Well, okay, maybe this will work out. 10 to 6 is impossible, but 8, I can see them doing that. The big question we've had this whole time is, dear God, are they actually going to try to condense 10 into 6? Or is there going to be a knock-on effect where they go, okay, we'll push those extra episodes into season 4? Thankfully, just the way Condal said this made me feel like he's not rushing. Please tell me in the comments that, well, if not entering the Endgame, we're at the midpoint. That if he's describing season 3 as most of the midpoint, by the end we're kind of starting into the final act of a 3-act structure. The way he said it makes me feel better, as opposed to how Benioff and Weiss are going, we always intended to end with only 70 episodes, and this is one 13-episode season you split into 2 halves and never intended it short, and you visibly rushed it, versus Condal and his team don't seem like they want to rush. That if he was going, no, we always wanted, he wouldn't even be using the word midpoint for this. That he would be saying the season 2 ending was the midpoint. He was right to do this. He punted the problem into season 4, which is the best you can do in a bad situation. I realize I have a lot of international viewers. In American football, when you punt, you're cutting your losses, pushing them down the field. That if you can't advance, you at least kick the ball away to try and set yourself up better. That why would he drastically rush season 3? Then what would be left for season 4? I think from this, debate this in the comments because there's no way to prove it, I think Condal still does hold out hope for maybe somehow getting an episode extension. Somehow. Not a lot, but just more than 8. At this point, he's not getting it for season 3. It's already written, but season 4 doesn't even begin filming for another 2 years. So I hate to just rely on common sense, but put yourself in Condal's position. If you were forced to condense something like this, would you try to overstack season 3 to reach an arbitrary endpoint? Or, because season 3 has an earlier point that's also a good stop, it's a cliffhanger at the Battle of Tumbleton, push the real condensation problem into season 4 and hope you get a better episode count then, because it's a long way off. Based on the way Condal said this, I'm leaning towards that, and I already made a speculative season outline. Check out my video on that if you haven't. This is a follow-up to that this is not the most rushed thing I've ever seen. It looked like it was moving at a decent pace, but not too fast. There's like one episode that I think would be the deepening difficulties of Rhaenyra ruling, which I would have done as 2 episodes. I can see how you could condense it into 1. And you'd still get a decent amount of story. And like, if they were really rushing this is another related point. If they were really rushing this, they would have cut Daeron. They would have cut his story down to bare bones. Instead, for season 3, we're seeing casting news for side characters in his subplot that they don't really need. There are certain cuts they made which may or may not have been due to condensation or story things like Nettles. I really can't prove that one way or the other, but I think Condal did the right thing, which is really just the common sense thing, that he moved the ending of season 3 earlier, before they wrote it. It was going to be storming a dragon pit, now it's Battle of Tumbleton. Question then is what to happen with season 4, but that's a long way off. That my hope is, and I've said this before, I hope that, like a couple of other major shows, they get an expanded episode order for a supersized final season. That's what Mad Men did, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. Now, if you think about it, seasons 2, 3, and 4, originally that was supposed to be 30 episodes, 10-episode seasons. They were cut to 8 each. So 3 seasons lost 2 episodes each. They owe us 6 episodes. We're short 6 episodes, right? The best case scenario, which even I think is not going to happen, but just, okay, within the realm of possibility, is this is not happening. The best case thing, just to give you a frame of reference, is if an 8-episode season 4 got 6 episodes added to it, turned into 14 episodes, but then aired in 2 halves of 7, like a full year apart. And just call it semantics, do whatever. Call it season 4A and season 4B. You might as well call them seasons 4 and 5. And like The Last of Us season 2 is actually the first half of the second game and it's only 7 episodes. So that's not that unrealistic. Now, even I think that's a stretch. I'm just saying the realistic thing I think Condal is hoping for is maybe he can get 10 episodes again for season 4 and meet HBO halfway by airing it in 2 blocks, a year, 8 months apart, 2 blocks of 5 episodes each. Maybe even meet them halfway by can we have 2 blocks of 6? Call it season 4A and B, call it season 4 and 5, whatever. This isn't the craziest suggestion. Other shows have had supersized final seasons aired in 2 blocks. Just so people don't accuse me of, you're desperately coping and hoping for things. All I'm saying is that I think Condal is hoping for that, or the phrase is he left the door open for that. He's leaving the option open and hoping HBO can change its mind. But I am admitting that there is a low chance of Warner Discovery and HBO actually changing their mind and giving him that episode money again. A lot could change 2 years from now. That's why I keep track of industry news, that Warner Discovery actually did pretty well this year, all things considered. They have turned a corner financially. And if they want this to succeed as a franchise, maybe they shouldn't undercut the big show out now. I'm not sure, but the way Condell said this makes me lean more towards my speculation that and just from the other thing he said at the end of season 2, where he said, well, I don't know what the exact episode count is, I still have to discuss it with HBO, sounded like what showrunner ever argued for fewer episodes, other than Benioff and Weiss when they wanted to jump ship to do Star Wars. This doesn't sound like someone who's rushing it. This sounds like someone who's hoping for an episode extension to season 4. I'm not asking for 7 seasons, just maybe a shortened, functional season 4 and 5 of like 6 episodes each just to wrap up the story. Otherwise, it would get complicated, but I am worried about season 4. Just from the news we've had about it, I'm not as worried about season 3. Both, not just from what Condell said here, but also just the remarks of the casting news we've got and all of that. We haven't gotten any bad news about season 3 yet, so we'll see what happens. Also at the end here, I mentioned the Dunk and Egg trailer news. There's grounded speculation going around that we might finally get the first teaser trailer in late May. Now, what happened was the show was ready to go for spring of 2025. That was the original plan. It got delayed to fall of 2025 purely for scheduling reasons. The show was done, but because of the ripple effects of the 2023 writers' strike, HBO would have had a gap in its schedule in fall if it aired and double-stacked things when they were ready. So they're rationing it out, just one big show at a time. Just White Lotus, just The Last of Us Season 2. Which, okay, that's rational. I'm not blaming them for that. There was a strike. And you can delay the first season of something forever, because it's new, versus we already aired season 1, let's wait 5 years to air season 2 is absurd. But okay, you're delaying the premiere of something that's a new show. It's not really hurting anything, other than that we're hungry for it. So I wasn't expecting a new trailer once they said, oh, it's all the way out in like October or something. You usually get these like 6 months before they air. Up to now, I was getting a little worried that all we got was at the season 2 finale of House of the Dragon, in their coming in 2025 to HBO sizzle reel, they showed a few clips, like a few seconds and just dialogue, I'm Duncan the Tall. That isn't a trailer. That's just a few shots of footage. And we debate the semantics of it's a teaser trailer versus a full trailer. The first real trailer of any category that's real footage, the first teaser trailer. The theory going around is that the trailer for House of the Dragon Season 2 first came out after HBO's big summer upfront presentation panel. So it stands to reason they might put Dunk and Egg's first trailer out during this year's upfront panel, which is on May 14th, which is a Wednesday. Just saying, people going, oh my god, why is something wrong? Have they not put it out yet? Up until May, I wouldn't be worried. Yeah, they should have put it out sooner, but okay, they're keeping their powder dry, as they say, that they're going to launch into that in the few months leading up to it so it doesn't lose momentum. If, okay, it's like an October release, it's not a long show, it's 6 episodes, put out the first teaser in the summer. That makes sense, early summer. The other option is, which I was suspecting, was, you think, oh, maybe they'll put it out during the season premiere of The Last of Us Season 2. I suspect they might be putting it out during the finale of Last of Us Season 2. Because that is May 25th. And I'm not even going to split hairs over this. It's a difference of like 10 days. That there's the Wednesday, May 14th, which is the upfront, then that weekend, that Sunday, and a week from that Sunday will be the finale of, because it's only 7 episodes, finale of The Last of Us Season 2. So I am preparing for it might actually be coming out at the upfront on May 14th, but if it doesn't, I won't be alarmed. I'll go, well, 10 days from now, it's a big finale, might as well wait and see what happens. I am saying right now that if we don't get a teaser with The Last of Us Season 2 finale as late as May 25th, where it's basically June by this point, that is when I am going to start getting worried. But there's these other two big events that are right back to back, 10 days apart. The big upfront, the last time they put out trailers was after the summer upfront, so it seems likely. And if not that, they might just be holding out for the big exposure of the finale. They might probably do both, because, you put a trailer online, then you put it out on the cable channel HBO in front of the big finale. That's when I think the Dunk and Egg era will begin. And let me tell you, I have not given up on House of the Dragon because it was hurt mostly by a writer's strike, and I think I'll talk more about why I think Martin is mad at them. Martin is not mad at them for the reason trolls are bashing season 2 for, pacing things. It ended after 8 episodes. That is clearly due to the strike. There are some criticisms, there always are, with literary adaptations, but the overwhelming bulk of complaints by, the man on the street who with no knowledge of the books are complaining there wasn't a battle in it, because, they were last-minute cuts. Season 3 will be planned out, it'll have a bunch of action in it. That will get the buzz going again for that, but that won't be until summer of 2026. Even if I'm right and it turns good again, can't convince anyone of that until they see it, But things will turn on when there's a trailer. What I'm saying is I noticed this when the lead up to House of the Dragon Season 2 was happening. The general public only really notices video content, trailers. Even when there were huge spoiler reports, spy reports in major news sites of there's all this stuff they're filming in the streets of Caceres, Spain. It's a funeral procession. It's clearly something with Helena's son. All these other things. When you look at Google Trends, it wasn't really translating into YouTube view count increase. It was giving us something to talk about, but in terms of the general public, even when there's a big interview with cast members or anything like that we were excited about, that was real information, they don't watch filming news as much. They really only tune in again when they see a trailer. And they act like, oh, I thought this show wasn't even coming out for 2 years. Don't you, read Variety and Deadline or just scroll through headlines? Most don't. The mere fact of having a trailer for a new show is like a nuke going off. Do you realize how many people don't even know there's a Dunk and Egg show being made? That even the brief clips of it that they showed in that Coming in 2025 reel during the Season 2 finale probably had very little impact compared to a dedicated, with a narrated voice, saying, here's this new show, it's Night of the Seven Kingdoms. That really hasn't caught the general public's eye yet, and just what a different era it will be when you have these two concurrent shows. That, yes, we had a winter where there wasn't much to talk about, where you're sitting around being scared. I'm over that. I'm convinced Condell and George have their differences that I hope they work out, but we're confusing the strike issues for that when they're unrelated. The strike was bad, it happened, but I know they're not going to have pacing problems again, as they did. That was a one-time thing because of the strike and everything. So, once I realized what was happening, oh, okay, I'm forgiving about that. Most of us are. And things have been turning on lately. That when Condell made his big statement about that and finally addressing, yes, George and I are not seeing eye to eye on things, same day that filming began, March 31st, in the past 3 weeks, we have seen the rusty gears starting to turn again in the online fandom. Here on YouTube, we haven't really gotten filming reports yet, but there's been a few casting news, the big interview that Condell gave, the cast for your consideration panel, slowly waking up from our winter hibernation, as it were. We have yet to have a really big... When the day we're on casting will probably be front page news for things. But it's the Dunk and Egg trailer which will finally shake people out of, look, we have things to do in the off-season. And then again, why are we acting like things are dead? Oh no, even in the break between seasons 1 and 2, before we started getting real season 2 filming reports, things were painfully slow in early 2023. Right now, it doesn't look that much different from then. So it's not, oh no, the franchise, it won't be dead, there'll be other shows. I don't even think House of the Dragon is in that much trouble. But getting the view counts, the online activity, the Dunk and Egg and House of the Dragon things are not competing with each other. They are serving each other. People will come for the Dunk and Egg content and stick around for, oh, by the way, there's active filming news on House of the Dragon Season 3. They will complement each other. But this is, the start of filming is sort of like when your alarm goes off and you hit the snooze button. But then the real alarm starts when an actual trailer comes out for new content, which in our case is a separate TV show, Dunk and Egg. Look for that at the upfront May 14th, and if it's not then, it'll be 10 days later during The Last of Us Season 2 finale. Only then, if it's not out by the Season 2 finale of The Last of Us, would I start being worried. Like, if you were HBO, would you put it out today? During Last of Us Episode 3? No, you'd wait for a big event, so I'm not that worried about it. Would you have put it out during the finale of The White Lotus? Well, there sure is a lot of audience crossover between The White Lotus and Westeros. No. You'd put it out between a show that has 2 former Game of Thrones cast members now in a sci-fi fantasy setting fighting zombies against, for The Last of Us has more crossover appeal to the Westeros crowd. So I think they're going to do that. So check out my other videos that so far we've heard nothing but good news the past couple of months and weeks, that yes, despite creative differences, the strike is behind us, and I'm cautiously optimistic with every new piece of news we get.